Okay everyone, so today's video is going to be a Neopixel blade shootout comparison. And so I've got three different Neopixel blades. These are all Profi board Sabers. They all have the same sound fonts and the same color styles, so we're going to be comparing apples to apples. The only thing that's different is the three different blades, or the three factory made blades, labeled A, B, and C. The contestants of this shootout, which the blades will be revealed at the end of the video. We've got a LGT Neopixel blade. We have a Bendu Armory Neopixel blade, and we have a Vaders Vault Neopixel blade, which is the V2 version with the KR pixel strips. So what we're going to do, we're going to fire all three up with the same color, and we'll take a look at things like just overall brightness in general, who seems to be the brightest. We're going to look at who seems to have the most kind of like corn cobbing or dead spots in the blade, whose tip is illuminated the best, and just overall thoughts between the three blades. And then we'll cycle through some different colors to see like whose blade renders colors better or differently. And then at the end I will reveal the blade along with the prices paid for it, so you get an idea of where your money is best spent. So without further ado, let's fire these up and see where we're gonna go. Okay. Overall, in terms of brightness, they all seem to be pretty comparable, in which I do think on camera Saber C kind of edges out just a slightest bit in terms of brightness. Off camera, Saber C is the obvious brighter one. Not by a huge margin, but it is noticeable in person that Saber C is the brightest of the three. So let's take a look at the tips. In terms of tip luminosity, again, Saber C seems to have the best illuminated tip. All the way through, you can't tell anything. Looks perfectly illuminated. Saber B is not as illuminated. Saber A obviously is the least illuminated. So in terms of tip illumination, winner clearly is Saber C. Second runner-up is Saber B, and the least is Saber A. So now let's take a look at some dead spots, corn cobbing, and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll kind of zoom in, that way you can see, and then I'll twist the blade. Okay, so this one kind of has one a little, you can see that line that runs up on this one. It's pretty noticeable. Overall, not too bad. Saber B, very noticeable dead spot. That line that just all the way up, that dead line where the two pixel strips meet, super noticeable. Like, it's, that dead spot is pretty wide. Comparing it to A, not so noticeable. Let me see if I can zoom in so we can get a better idea. Not so much. Probably best to zoom out. Saber C, I don't really see any dead spots whatsoever. It looks pretty clean and clear all the way through. And just, I mean, God, look at the line on this one. So Saber B sucks in terms of dead spots. Saber A still has a slight dead spot, but it's not as noticeable. Saber C, literally no dead spots. So let me stand up here and see if I can zoom out a little bit. Yeah, look at luminosity on Saber C when I zoom in a little bit. That thing is bright. But you do notice a slight faint dead spot when zoomed out a little bit, but nowhere near as bad as Saber's A and B. So far, the clear winner so far seems to be Saber Neopixel Blade C. B seems pretty horrendous as far as that deadline. A seems to be average, acceptable. So now, for the next portion, we're going to do some different blade styles. Let's see some different colors to see how they render the color. Okay, let me cycle through and find a color.
The oppression of the Sith will never return.
Okay.
You have lost.
Let's do Mace Windu purple. Oop, you didn't want that.
The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have the oppression of the Sith will never return.
So let's fire up purple and see if we notice a difference in colors to see how they render colors. Let's stand back a little bit. Okay. On camera, obviously there is a color shift. You can see this one in the middle, B, leans more towards a violet purple. Now again, this Saber color, the RGB values are just your standard purple magenta, which is 255, 0, 255, so equal amounts of red and blue. A leans more towards kind of like a fuchsia pink, and then C kind of falls in between these two. It's not as pink as A, it's not as violet-y purple as B. It's like an in-between color. But look at the luminosity on C. It is clearly the brightest of the three when rendering a purple color. So let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so when it's zoomed in, you can see the difference in colors. This one definitely leans more towards fuchsia pink. This one is pretty much standard violet-y purple. And this the Saber C is in between these two colors. So as far as accuracy, it's hard to say what's accurate, to be honest, when you're dealing with purple. This one falls like it looks like it's the most purple. This one is obviously way too pink. Saber C seems to fall right in the middle of the two, so not bad. Okay, let's do one more color.
That lightsaber of you is the path to the... May the Force be with you.
They're all set to the same font color, same fonts, so let's fire up blue and see how these colors look in comparison. Okay, on camera, it's pretty obvious. Saber C is hella bright, the brightest of the three, by a large margin. Off camera, surprisingly, it doesn't look that noticeably much brighter. On camera, it's obviously picking it up as brighter, but off camera, it really doesn't look like it's that much brighter. Yes, it does. It is the brightest of the three, even off camera, but not by a lot. But on camera, it clearly looks like it's the brightest of the three. So here's the interesting things to note as far as color rendering. Let me zoom in. All three seem to be about of the same color, but you'll notice on Saber A has like this violety purplish hue surrounding it. Saber C doesn't have that. It's just pretty much straight up blue, slight maybe hints of cyan around the edge. Saber C is kind of cool. It actually has a more cyan outer kind of glow close to the rim of the blade, but still very clearly blue. Once you get to the outer edges here, it's the standard blue, but it leans cyan closer to the blade. So I thought that was kind of neat. Okay, so that was it pretty much. I mean, comparing all three blades, I would say C wins by a landslide in all aspects. The best brightness, best color rendering, most illuminated tip, least corn cobbing or no dead spots whatsoever. B, in my opinion, is probably the worst of the three, mostly because I hate that freaking dead spot line that runs up and down the blade. Saber A, while it does have it, it's not as noticeable as Saber B, which is a solid chunk of a line. So in my opinion, the clear winner of the three is definitely Saber C. The clear loser of the three is Saber B. And then the average, probably best all-around blade that's doesn't suck but it's not the best, is Saber A. So let's reveal who these blade manufacturers are and how much the prices are. So Saber A, LGT, $75 Neopixel blade. Saber B, Bendu Armory, $100 blade. Saber C, the Vaders Vault KR Pixel Strip blade for $150. So in conclusion, yes, this one obviously is twice the price as the LGT, but clearly you can see it's a far superior blade. Looking at these two, as far as the price point, the Bendu, in my opinion, came out the worst by a huge margin. Not worth the extra $25 spent. So, if I were to rank these from best to worst, Vaders Vault KR is the best. LGT for $75 came in second place. Bendu Armory came in last. So as far as your money best spent, if you're on a budget, go for the LGT for $75. It's your best all-around Saber, Neopixel blade. If you are willing to spend twice the price, go with the Vaders Vault. But then, I don't know why Bendu Armory came in such high regard to the Saber community, because that huge thick line of dead spot, to me, in my opinion, that is just unacceptable. For $100, not worth it. So there you have it. The Neopixel Blade Shootout.